Well, hello. Welcome to the tiny house. Come on in. And here's our beautiful garden tiny home. Our seating area and table. Our lovely little kitchen, small but functional. And here's the bathroom with a full-size shower and a normal flushing toilet. Upstairs is the lofted bedroom. The fan is necessary for air circulation. Here's a bird's eye view of the tiny house. Outside, the garden's coming in. Here's where we get our water. Connects right into the tiny house. And this is our gas for our little stovetop. Simple, but everything we need. Hello everybody, my name is Tyler Lloyd and this is my YouTube channel where I explore life and question the default. And for the past week, Michelle and I have been living in this tiny house to try it out because I've had a long-standing interest with living in a tiny home. It's one of the reasons why I've been pursuing minimalism and decreasing the amount of stuff that I own, because even though I don't think we will ever actually live in a tiny home, I appreciate a lot of the benefits and the reasons why people choose to live in these tiny houses. For those of you who don't know, a tiny home is just that, a tiny home. Usually somewhere between 100 to 400 square feet. They can be built upon a trailer or have a solid permanent foundation. And the average home in the United States is around 2,300 feet. So in comparison, very small. But then there are a lot of homes that are much, much larger. The tiny home movement is attempting to do several different things. One, there is an eco-conscious side of it. The larger your footprint, your house, the more environmental impact you're going to have. A lot of people who live in tiny homes are very conscious of their energy usage, water usage, and wanting to live in a more cyclical and sort of environment and an economy. Another big thing is financial reasons. Homes are expensive in the United States. Tiny homes can be very, very expensive, but they can range from anywhere from about $10,000 to $40,000, $50,000. And this is a lot of money to have up front, but most people who have a tiny home are able to recoup or pay off the cost within just a few years. And from that point forward, they're living mortgage free. Yes, you do have to have a piece of land to put it on, but sometimes they work out things where they put it on a farm and they work on the farm. They can buy the land outright and it ends up being much cheaper. And those are the two big reasons why I'm drawn to tiny home living, wanting to be more environmentally conscious, but also more frugal with my money. I don't think I'm ever going to live in a giant mansion, a big house. That's not exactly what I want. I want something that is well within my means, where I'm not living paycheck to paycheck. Because the majority of Americans, about 75%, are living paycheck to paycheck. This is because they are house rich, but money poor. They've bought homes that they really couldn't afford. Just because a bank will give you a loan for a home doesn't mean you can afford it. So they're putting so much of their paycheck towards living in these big giant houses and then spending money to buy things to fill these big giant homes. I don't ever want to do that, and a tiny house helps you rein that in. It's been a good experience living in the tiny home. This particular one is set up to be an Airbnb, and if you're ever in Asheville, North Carolina and want to stay in it, I'll link to it down below so you can try out tiny home living for yourself. And because it is an Airbnb, there are some decisions where there's a little bit of wasted space. If someone were to be living in a tiny home of this footprint, I think some things would have been done a little bit different to increase the storage. Michelle and I are living out of suitcases right now, and it's been hard to even find a good place to put our stuff. So if you were living here on a more permanent basis, you would want to rethink a few different things, but overall, this space is definitely very doable. Some other things that I didn't necessarily care for, there's only one sink in the entire tiny house, so there's no sink in the bathroom, there's only the sink in the kitchen. But I lived without running water for 2 years, living in Burkina Faso in a rural village, so it's all manageable. You get used to it. I was just happy to have a shower that I could fully stand up in, and the water didn't just, hit me in the chest, which is most hotel showers are far too short for me. So it was nice to have a shower that was full size. There wasn't a composting toilet like a lot of tiny houses have that are off the grid. This one, because it's on their property, it's tied into their septic system. And other things that I liked or disliked about it. The kitchen, it was small, but the space was very, very manageable for us to cook in, to move around in together. No complaints there. The lofted bed was fun getting in and out of. Even for myself being 6'3", I never bumped my head on the ceiling. And overall, I've really enjoyed my time in this tiny house. One thing I would recommend if you're considering living in a tiny house or changing, your life radically, try to set up self-experimentation where you can try something out for a short period of time, and if it doesn't work out, you can go back to it. You always hear these stories of people who work their whole life to get to retirement where they want to then spend the rest of their life living on a boat, but they've never lived on a boat, and then they go to live on this boat and they absolutely hate it. So rather than going all in, you can set up little experiments in your life to rent a tiny house for a week to live in it, to rent a van and live out of that and do van life for a week. Lots of different ways that you can experiment with living in different places in different ways where you can, if it doesn't work for you, that you can return back to your normal life. And that's what this YouTube channel is all about, is experimenting, exploring life, and questioning the default. So if you want to get more videos about all of that stuff, hit subscribe down below, and let me know if you've ever considered living in a tiny house. I would love to hear from you guys. But until next time, my name is Tyler Lloyd, and you're awesome. Bye. Could you live in a tiny house long term?
With additional storage options. Possibly.
So no. I'm hearing a no.
Well,